Welcome, everyone, to vpod.ai. I'm Mike, and joining me today is our resident expert, Susan. You can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, visit vpod.ai to get started today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to get into this one.
Yeah, me too. So today we are taking on a mission that is, frankly, incredibly high stakes for a lot of you listening. We're talking about wiping out massive debt and doing it fast.
Very fast.
But there's a really crucial catch to the strategy we're laying out today. We are looking specifically at how to execute this when you are operating on a low income.
Which, and let's just be honest right up front, that low income factor changes the entire landscape of how you tackle this.
Oh, totally. Because having a low income means there's just zero margin for error, right?
Exactly. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't have like an extra couple $1,000s lying around to just absorb a financial mistake.
Yeah.
And you can't just, throw a massive end of year corporate bonus at the problem to make it magically disappear.
Must be nice for the people who can, but yeah, that's not the reality here.
Right. So operating on a low income means this requires a really ultra-focused, dedicated strategy. It's not just words. We're talking about fundamentally altering your behavioral psychology around money.
Which means we are essentially throwing out a lot of the conventional advice you'd hear from, like a standard financial planner.
Oh, absolutely. Throwing it right out the window.
Okay, so let's start with the very first step, because before you can actually defeat this monster, you have to look it in the eye.
Yeah, you have to face the music.
Right. We need to move from this vague sort of anxiety-inducing idea of just getting out of debt, which is overwhelming, to the actual physical act of taking inventory.
It sounds so incredibly simple, but taking inventory is usually where people just freeze up.
Because it's terrifying.
It is. So many people live in this state of, fearful denial. They know they owe money, but they just push those envelopes to the back of the kitchen counter.
Or they just, delete the billing emails without even opening them. I've been there.
We all have. Human beings are incredibly skilled at avoiding pain. But the harsh truth is, you cannot fix a problem until you quantify it.
So what's the literal first step then?
You need to sit down at your kitchen table with a blank piece of paper and write down every single thing you owe. No more pushing it under the rug.
But let's make a critical distinction here for everyone listening. When we talk about this specific rapid payoff strategy, we are only applying it to what we're going to categorize as bad debt.
Yes. We are specifically targeting depreciating items.
Meaning things that go down in value the minute you buy them, right?
Exactly. So this includes your credit card balances, medical bills, student loans, payday loans.
So if it's not actively going up in value, it goes on this paper.
Right. We are not talking about appreciating assets like real estate. So leave your mortgage off this list completely. We are strictly hunting down the bad debt today.
Okay, got it. So you have your piece of paper, you're listing all of these bad debts, and the strategy dictates that you list them strictly from the smallest total balance to the largest total balance.
Just a straight chronological line right down the page. Smallest at the top, largest at the bottom.
Okay, but here's the rule where I really need to stop and push back on behalf of everyone listening.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
The strategy says to ignore the interest rates entirely.
Yes, entirely.
But wait, ignore the interest rate. If a card has a 20% rate and another has 5%, conventional math says you attack the 20% first.
Right.
Why are we throwing the math out the window? As someone scraping by on minimum wage, voluntarily paying more interest to a bank feels like a massive mistake.
I get it. Most traditional financial advisors would literally gasp at ignoring the interest rate. But you have to understand the psychology of what we call hyperbolic discounting.
Hyperbolic discounting. Okay, what is that?
It basically means human beings are emotional creatures, not spreadsheets. We value immediate rewards far, far more than long-term abstract benefits.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if you attack a massive, say, $20,000 student loan first just because it has a high interest rate, you might grind for 10 months and barely see the principal drop.
And then you just lose all your motivation and quit.
Precisely. You get hit with complete behavioral fatigue. So we are trading a tiny bit of mathematical efficiency for an overwhelming psychological advantage.
Wow. Yeah.
Because when you use this strategy, you are moving aggressively fast. You're aiming to be completely debt-free in 1 to 3 years.
Right, so the timeline is super compressed.
Exactly. Because that timeline is so tightly compressed, the interest rate actually doesn't have the time to compound and hurt you.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I mean, saving an extra $100 or $200 in interest over 2 years is completely irrelevant if doing it the other way causes you to quit before you cross the finish line.
So the psychological momentum of crossing entire debts off the list is just way more valuable than the math.
100%. Think of your debt like a massive tangled knot. You don't try to untie the thickest, most difficult part of the rope first.
No, you'd be there all day.
You pull at the smallest, tightest loops. And as those small loops come undone, the entire structure of the knot begins to loosen. And that gives you the momentum to tackle the rest.
Untying the smallest loops first to loosen the whole knot. Man, that visual makes a lot of sense.
It really works.
Okay, so you have your debts mapped out on paper, smallest balance to largest. The immediate next question is, how can we legally shrink this list before we even start paying?
Right. And this step requires stepping a bit out of your comfort zone. You actually need to call your creditors to settle.
You literally just pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone, explain your situation, and see if there is any way possible to settle the debt for a lower amount.
But, like, what are the exact words someone should use? Because if you just say, hey, I don't want to pay this, they're just going to hang up on you.
Yeah, definitely don't say that. You want to be polite but firm about your reality. Medical billing departments are actually really receptive to this.
Really? Okay, so give us an example.
So you say something like, look, I am looking at my $5,000 medical bill. I want to make a deal and make this right, but I am on a very low income and I simply do not have $5,000.
Just be brutally honest.
Exactly. And then you say, if I can scrape together $3,500 over the next 3 months, can we consider this account settled in full?
And they go for that.
Often, yes, because they know that getting some guaranteed cash is way better than the risk of you defaulting completely, where they get zero.
Man, it is wild to think about the return on investment for that one phone call.
It really is.
I mean, nobody likes waiting on hold, getting transferred, having awkward conversations about being broke. But think about the hourly rate of that effort.
Right. If it takes 3 hours of awkward phone calls on a Tuesday afternoon,
And you manage to knock $1,500 off a medical bill.
you just essentially saved thousands or, earned $500 an hour for your time.
That's incredible.
It is. Now, while we are on the topic of managing this list of creditors, we have to address this giant trap that catches so many people.
Oh, debt consolidation.
Yes. Do not do it. People are constantly searching for a magic bullet, They think they can just lump all their credit cards together to get one neat monthly payment.
Yeah, I've always thought consolidating debt to save a fraction of a percent is like playing a shell game with your money.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Because you're just moving the same problem from one cup to another to make it look neater on the table, but the actual problem hasn't shrunk at all.
Exactly. The shell game, you haven't paid anything off, you've just reorganized the mess. But honestly, the real danger of consolidation isn't just that it's an illusion.
What is it then?
The danger is that it makes the debt feel softer. It makes it feel way more manageable.
Wait, shouldn't we want our financial lives to feel manageable?
Not when you are trying to escape an emergency. To pay off debt fast on a low income, you actually want it to hurt.
You want it to hurt.
You need to feel the friction. Making it difficult creates this very real sense of desperation, and that desperation fuels urgency.
Okay, I see. So if you consolidate everything into one comfortable payment, you lose the urgency.
You relax, you blink, and 10 years have passed, and you are still casually paying off that same consolidated loan. You want the pressure to force you to move faster.
Keep the friction high so the motivation stays high.
Mm.
But are there any scenarios where consolidation is actually the right move?
There is one very specific exception. If you have a massive amount of debt, like, say, $300,000 in student loans.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, where mathematically it will inevitably take you 4 to 10 years to pay off no matter what. Because that timeline is so long, the interest you save through consolidation might actually matter.
Right, because it's going to be around for a decade.
Exactly.
Right.
But for standard bad debt, just refuse the temptation to consolidate. Keep the separate targets painted on the wall.
Okay, so you've mapped the debts, negotiated the balances down, and kept the targets separate.
Yeah.
But you need actual cash to back up this attack plan.
Yeah, you need ammo.
Where do you find that money when your income is already stretched to the breaking point?
That brings us to the zero-based budget. There is no secret formula here. You just have to calculate exactly how much extra money you have every single month
And how do you do that?
by spending your money on paper before the month even begins.
So a zero-based budget means every single dollar is assigned a job until your balance hits zero.
Exactly.
But how does someone practically do that if their income fluctuates? Like a lot of people might be working hourly jobs where they get 40 hours one week and 28 hours the next.
That's a great question. You build your zero-based budget on your lowest expected income.
Ah, okay.
So if you know your absolute worst-case scenario is getting scheduled for 30 hours a week, you build your entire monthly budget around that baseline.
Okay, so you map out rent, groceries, and find the gap.
Right. And for some of you, that extra money might be $150. For others, it might be $2,000. Whatever that baseline extra number is, that is your weapon.
And where does that weapon go in the budget?
It goes to the absolute top. You label it debt payoff, and it goes right under your absolute survival essentials like giving, food, and rent.
Wow. That is a massive shift in priority. I mean, most people pay their bills, buy their groceries, and then whatever crumbs are left over at the end of the month go to the credit card.
And there are usually no crumbs left over.
Right. You're saying we need to treat the debt payoff like it's the electric bill? If you don't pay it first, the lights go out.
Exactly. You have to manufacture that artificial scarcity in your checking account. And once you secure that extra money, you feed it directly into the core engine of this whole strategy, the debt snowball.
The debt snowball.
Yeah.
Okay, let's walk the listener through exactly how this works.
So you take your extra budgeted money, let's say it's $500, and you apply all of it directly to the absolute smallest debt on your list.
While paying only the bare minimums on the rest.
Yes, just the minimums on the rest. So if your smallest debt's minimum is $100, you combine that with your extra $500.
So you're now paying $600 a month on it until it's gone.
Right. And because it's your smallest balance, hitting it with $600 a month is going to vaporize it so fast.
And then what?
Then you roll that entire $600 you were used to paying and you add it to the minimum payment of your second debt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So maybe you're hitting that second debt with $700 or $800 a month now.
You're just keeping the financial pressure exactly the same, but focusing a larger and larger laser beam onto the next target.
The mechanics of the snowball's momentum are just staggering. Eventually, you will be dropping $1,500 to $2,000 a month on a single credit card.
The speed becomes addictive.
It really does. It becomes incredibly addictive.
The math and strategy are clearly airtight. But let's be real for a second. Executing this on a low income for 2 to 3 years is a brutal psychological marathon. It's grueling. It really is.
How does the listener actually survive the process without burning out?
You survive by taking radical control. First, you must find ways to boost your income to add to the snowball. You find side gigs, side hustles, overtime shifts.
Get as much ammo as possible.
Exactly. And second, you develop absolute tunnel vision. You have to completely ignore what your friends are buying.
That's hard.
It's so hard. But there is no eating out all the time, no vacations, no trips to Cancun until the debt is totally gone.
You have to be ruthless.
Absolutely ruthless. However, and this is key, when you do pay off a debt, you must celebrate the small win.
Wait, it sounds like a contradiction.
Yeah.
You have to be absolutely ruthless and militant with your lifestyle, but surprisingly gentle with yourself and celebrate. How do you balance that?
It's all about long-term behavioral change. If you mess up and slip back into old habits, beating yourself up leads to quitting.
Right, you just throw your hands up and say, whatever, I failed.
Exactly. You have to have a growth mindset. Make adjustments and keep moving forward. And celebrating the small wins like going out to a movie or getting a cheap meal out when you clear a debt, that builds the endurance you need.
It's like a pressure release valve.
Yes. You're getting out of the matrix one debt at a time. Those little celebrations keep your energy and morale high enough to reach the finish line.
That is just brilliant. Let's quickly recap this whole journey for everyone listening, because this is a lot of actionable stuff.
Let's do it.
First, you map the bad debt from smallest to largest. Second, you embrace the awkwardness and call to negotiate it down. Third, you put that payoff at the absolute top of a zero-based budget.
Right, under food and rent.
Exactly. Then you snowball the payments to build that massive momentum. And finally, you maintain tunnel vision while making sure to celebrate the small victories along the way.
That's the playbook.
Before we wrap up, I want to end with a thought for you all to really chew on. If you can force yourself to live on less, hustle for extra cash, and eventually throw $1,500 a month at a credit card. I want you to imagine what happens the month after that final debt is paid.
Oh, I love this.
Imagine taking that exact same snowball, the discipline, the extra income, the unstoppable momentum you've built, and instead of aiming it at a bank, you aim it toward building wealth instead.
It's completely life-changing.
It really is. What could your life look like in 5 years with that kind of power? Think about it. Well, thank you all so much for joining the conversation today, and thank you, Susan, for breaking this down so perfectly.
It was my pleasure.
Keep pushing, stay focused on that snowball, and we will catch you next time.